Let us secure our borders, enforce our laws, protect our children, and restore the future.
For the sake of our nation, we have to go with Donald Trump.
Former Ambassador Nikki Haley and Texas Senator Ted Cruz, just two of many people who took the stage on the second night of the Republican National Convention. The theme at the RNC tonight is Make America Safe Again.
And Republicans are promoting the convention as a show of unity after the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. We have live team coverage from Milwaukee, as well as our political commentator Sue O'Connell joining us in the newsroom. But first, we do want to go out to our J.C. Monahan. J.C.
Priscilla and Glenn, on this second day of the RNC, we are learning about an alleged Iranian plot to kill former President Donald Trump. According to 3 U.S. officials, the Biden administration obtained intelligence in recent weeks about the plot, and that information led the Secret Service to ramp up security around Trump in recent weeks. Now, we do want to note, officials said there was no indication this had any link to Saturday's assassination attempt on the former president. Safety was in the spotlight at the RNC. Let's bring in NBC 10 political reporter Matt Pritchard, who is at the convention. Nikki Haley, Matt, taking the stage. And, of course, the last person in the primary to step aside, just clearing the way for Donald Trump to get that nomination.
Yeah, JC, she was one of the loudest voices that spoke earlier tonight on day 2 of the RNC. And if you look behind me here, you can see that it is still going on at the moment. They're closing things up, and Donald Trump is still in that red Make America Great Once Again box there, surrounded by trusted advisors. J.D. Vance there on his left, Steve Scalise on his right, someone I spoke with earlier today, along with some of his family, both Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump Jr. as well in that box as this night rounds off. But as you mentioned, we just had a lot of people come up to the podium and speak throughout the evening, including some of Donald Trump's rivals during this 2024 race, now turned former rivals. We had, of course, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who received a thunderous ovation from this crowd when he walked up to the stage. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, another one that walked up to a loud applause. But when it came to former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Trump's most fervent rival during this 2024 race, Nikki Haley, she received a smattering of cheers on the floor, but boos coming from the upper deck. Both her and DeSantis putting forward a message of unity and putting their trust behind Donald Trump. Take a listen.
President Trump asked me to speak to this convention in the name of unity. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
Biden is just a figurehead. He's a tool for imposing a leftist agenda on the American people. They support open borders, allowing millions and millions of illegal aliens to pour into our country and to burden our communities. But just don't send any to Martha's Vineyard, then they get really upset.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis referencing when he sent migrants up towards Martha's Vineyard there in Massachusetts. But of course, you would think, you heard all these different big names that I mentioned, that those would be the keynote speakers tonight. Not the case. Laura Trump getting the nod for that on night 2. A very personal touch from Donald Trump and the RNC. She spoke again, trying to push forward that message of unity while simultaneously pointing out the differences between her father-in-law and the current president, Joe Biden.
Last Saturday was a jarring reminder that we, as Americans, must always remember. There is more that unites us than divides us. We all want this country to be great, even if we don't always agree on the best way of doing that.
And so, as you can see, we are rounding off night 2 as we speak. The delegates starting to make their way towards the exit, as well as the attendees up in the stands. And Donald Trump himself still hasn't left that box. We may be able to show you him walking down the stairs. Basically, you can see he's about to do that, shaking a few hands before heading out of the building. He's been walking down the staircase that is just below him and then going out a concourse out of the building, I assume. But neither night has he gone towards the stage. Both times he has been pin up in that box. But of course, a lot of people are very focused on his address coming up on Thursday. The first speech, the first remarks from him since that assassination attempt on Saturday. We will be watching for that. And of course, the vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, tomorrow night. In Milwaukee, Matt Pritchard, NBC 10 Boston.
Matt, thank you. Let's bring in our political commentator, Sue O'Connell, live in the newsroom. Sue, I want to get two questions to you. The first is on the messaging that the Republicans are trying to hit here at the RNC. The first one is unity. And if you think about it, you had former challengers back at this convention. You had the delegates at the convention. Did that message of unity, do you think, land with Americans and the viewers out there?
Well, I think, JC, if making your biggest rival take the stage and endorse you while you sit blankly watching her, then I guess yes, the answer is yes. Of course, I'm talking about Haley and Donald Trump. There were some boos and applause while she took the stage, as Matt noted, but the first words out of her mouth were about unity. And then in another speech from another rival, Ron DeSantis, that matched Trump's agenda. Trump was more animated during it. And a rival from a distant race, Ted Cruz, his experience tonight was much better than it was in 2016 when he was roundly booed and nearly fled the arena after not endorsing Donald Trump. And they were unified in incorrectly pronouncing Kamala Harris's name tonight. So, yes, they did hit the unification goals, JC.
Okay, Sue, you know, every night we talk about how the RNC has a different theme, and this one was Make America Safe Again, and they hit about border policy, immigration, crime. Do you think that message landed with the American people?
Yeah, if their audience believes that the biggest threat to America's safety is immigration and DEI, then yes. DeSantis launched a culture war attack. Ted Cruz gave an anti-immigration speech. But look, we did hear some very moving, heartfelt stories from folks the RNC called everyday Americans. They shared some very painful stories about their loved ones' deaths from opioids, fentanyl, and those who were murdered by undocumented immigrants. Of course, blaming illegal immigration, blaming Biden and the Biden border policies. Look, JC, while each death is obviously a terrible, terrible tragedy and loss, it is important to note that overdose deaths decreased of about 3% last year. That's the first decrease since 2018. And the FBI is reporting that violent crime is at a historical low level. So they did get their message across, though, and obviously our hearts go out to the folks who have been impacted.
No question about that, Sue. Always doing a great job putting this in perspective. Really appreciate it. For tonight, that is all from Milwaukee. But of course, Matt and I are continuing to be here all week long. We will be reporting live for you all week as well. But right now, Glenn and Priscilla, tossing it back over to you.
All right, JC, great job tonight as we get ready for day 3 tomorrow. All right, and we, of course, will have continuing coverage of the third day of the convention. JC and Matt will be joining us live from the RNC all week long, so be sure to tune in for their live reports.